Hey guys, it's Holy to Boot and welcome to my week 5 succession aftermath video. And I do apologise, it's not quite week 5, but you know, with the Christmas holidays and etc, going back to work, and I've been trying to do some other videos as well. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Sorceress and the Berserker, which I'm going to refer to as Sork and Zerk, because I don't want to say both those words all day long. Honestly, it'll be a tongue twister at best. So I think this is probably going to be one of the most interesting ones there is, because, well, you're going to see when we go into it, these are really chalk and cheese, yin and yang. They're so far apart from each other. And, you know, this time I think, you know, Cacao has sort of fallen short a little bit, but we'll get into that. Anyway, so let's start off and we shall have a look at the Sorceress and her overview. So let's go straight into it, and I'm going to just put this point out as the first one. Honestly, her damage is absolutely broken. Like, holy cow. Honestly, if you look at what some of these Sorks are doing, and that's not just in PvP, that's in PvE as well, everywhere, they've just got so much damage. Their burst, oh my lord, it is huge. I've seen a Sork just burst down like 350 plus DP characters, 380 DP characters with evasion gear, and they just make it look like they're just cutting through cheese. It is unreal. Honestly, I've not seen anything like it. So it's been bonkers to see. So obviously this is going to slightly tip the scale for a lot of people, I know, but so here you go. You know, that is the first two things I can say: huge damage and massive burst. But so let's go into some of the things which are interesting. A lot of people will remember the Abyssal Flame, and it's just like, now the damage from it is just ridiculous. So, and because that's ranged, it's almost made the Sork a completely different class now, because it has this huge burst potential with high damage from afar. So some of the other things it is worth saying that, you know, yes, it is, you know, I keep saying that the damage is absolutely nutty and out there. The Awakening still may pull ahead in 1v1s, but that's only due to having more options and the potential to outplay someone is there. So other than that, you know, damage wise, it's just, you can't compare it. You really can't. You know, as far as what some of the Sorks have said, especially my friends, don't get me wrong, everyone loves doing that massive damage, but I think the playstyle has shifted so much with the succession that some of the sorcerers are finding it a little bit dull. Don't get me wrong, some are loving it, but I think it's more the people that loved like the higher skill cap of playing the Sork, aka fishing for the knockdown then going in, compared to now where they're much more like Archer-esque, if that makes sense. You know, they're battering you from damage from afar and getting the kills. Some people just don't like that, but that's fair enough. And yeah, like I said, it is more about whittling people down now rather than fishing for like the engage sort of thing. So actually a lot of Sorks are finding that it's easier for them to manage their stamina for iframes because, you know, they're playing more ranged, which is fair enough. Just as another little sort of quality of life thing for the Sorks, I guess. I'm not a massive... I've only played Sork a couple of times, even though the class is obviously amazing. Their ability to grain fragments is a lot easier now, so it's one of the things that a lot of people didn't know about the Sorks, especially if they've never played one. They actually have an extra resource, which is the fragments, which obviously help them empower their move, and it fuels that move, which allows them to give AP to their teammates, that sort of thing. So gaining them is much easier now, so they've buffed the amount that they can get from certain abilities, and if they block with some, they get bonus, so it is a lot more smoother to play as such. So I've said at the start about the damage going up. The thing is now it seems that the Sork is just better at grinding everywhere. No matter what level, no matter what your gear is, just because it is now like more mid-range type thing with higher damage, you know, it's always going to be better to grind with because you can just jump between packs, smash your damage down, everything just dies. And a lot of high-end players are getting so much higher numbers at their high-end grinding spots as well. It's just mad. And you know what? I'm going to say it again. The burst is mad. This class is just... This is a nutty succession, honestly. I mean, I think it's fair to say overtuned. I've not really wanted to say about classes or sorts being anything like overpowered, but I think this one might be slightly overtuned. So, if we were to look at the pros list, there's a big list. You know, the huge damage burst, you just have to say that, and it's huge burst in general as well. It's just massive. The damage is huge. The fact that they're now like a mid-range class, I know when I did my most recent video, some people saying, oh, but Sork's melee, Sork's melee. I mean, with these changes, honestly, Sork, you can more play Sork more like mid-range because you're whittling down from afar now rather than picking your engage. there's no reason for you necessarily to go into close combat unless you're finishing off. You really don't. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the class now. It is easier to generate shards, which means the playstyle does get a lot easier, or, you know, to get those higher outputs. And grinding in general, PvE grinding, is just considerably easier. I mean, you just have to go up to things, and I've said this before with other characters, but you sneeze and they die, and this is, you know, I was expecting them to get a slight, you know, PvE buff, but nothing like what they've got here. It is huge. So as far as a cons list, I'm struggling. The main cons, like I said, you know, this if you're being sort of a bit over the top, you'd say the 1v1 ability, because you have more choices in I was going to say in America, in Awakening, you know, you sort of lose that extra sort of, you know, you lose the choices. And obviously for a skilled player who knows his full kit, obviously choices is always going to be a better tool, but for the majority, that's probably not going to be the case. Also, I'm going to say you lose the size. So aesthetically, I mean, Slive's a badass. Other than that, it seems a lot of players are just saying it's more of a moral choice, because at the end of the day, it is, I don't want to say broken, it does seem overtuned, and because of that, people are enjoying it for what it is, you know, and fair play, because everyone does it with these sort of things. But it is super strong, and it has sort of, the idea of Succession was to make the choice, so you chose to do one or the other, and you'd get benefits in one area and not the other, and such, and we've seen that done quite well with some other classes. But the Sorc, no, really isn't. It just seems so one-sided. So there we go. I mean, I'd honestly, if I had a Sorc and I wanted to go, I don't want to say Asmode, that sounds horrible, but it is. Yeah, I'd just stay in Succession. So fair enough, Sorc, there you go. You time to obliterate everything. And here we go. You know how I said the Succession, I'm going to talk about a yin and yang? Sadly, this is it. And though I'm sure some people are going to get angry at this, because, you know, you'll get the hardcore Zerk players who will say something, but on whole, it seems the community's felt like this is the first real fail Succession. I know some people didn't like the Tamers one, but it still had its sort of place for like a CC bot. But the Berserker Succession, it seems to have just fallen flat. Admittedly, the damage is still quite high in the Succession, but because of how the moves have worked, like they've put the add-ons on, and one that people have told me is the Frenzy Destroyer. So they used to spam that when someone was on the ground to get some nice damage out. But because that now has its cooldown, yes, the first hit does obviously its insane damage because it's Succession, but everyone after that doesn't do that high damage anymore. So overall, you know, how they're normally grinding, it just feels meh. It's you know, it's not that much better. Now, it is worth saying that the higher end spots, when I say the higher end, the highest end spots, if you're doing you know, the Abyssal Ruins, Skyrim, whatever it's called, you know, you would pull out slightly better, but overall, meh. It's just meh. That's always what I'm getting. Apparently, it's still okay for 1v1. Now, obviously, that's still going to go around the fact of a couple of things. One, you can still engage with, you know, your Lava Piercer, and you also do have 2 additional like dashes, which I'll probably mention a little bit more, but you have those dashes, so actually you can jump into a combat situation 1v1 sort of better, and you'll get your grabs off, and you still have like the high Succession damage. So yes, in 1v1s you're still okay, you're still in a good position, but obviously what you're giving up for that is the ability of, you know, poking from afar with your hand cannons. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Now, one of the other things that is obvious that you're going to lose, because, you know, everyone's lost it, you've lost the C-swap guard. Now, I wasn't aware of this because I don't play Zerker at all, and I've never had one, but similar to the Ninja, Zerker seem to rely on this a lot to have the frontal guards when, you know, between putting things together. And they've also lost several of their super armors on their moves, obviously, which they would have had from the Awakening. So because of that, in larger scale, they feel considerably less protected, and they are less protected. So aren't pulling up as good numbers as before. Now, the examples that I've been given was someone who's a Siege Berserker who does very well. He's normally has very good KDA scores in Node Wars. The last one, I think he got 1 kill with his 10 deaths. That's just a really good example of someone who normally gets a very good positive KDA, and just no. Now, it's still early days, of course, but I really just think this is, this is one which I believe is probably going to get reworked. So yeah, what can you say? I did make the comment there about the 2 very fast dashes. Apparently it's more described as like a LAN style. So what you can do after you lava pierce in is you do these 2 nice little dashes as well, just to help close the gap. So that should mean getting that grab for the engage is easier in theory. So that's something which is at least positive for the 1v1 side, which should make it considerably better. But overall, for a lot of players, they're probably going to avoid the succession. They really are. The hand cannons, you know, just seem better overall. So that's a shame. That's a shame. So the pros for this, I mean, it is slightly better at end game grind spots. I shouldn't say spots, it's more a spot. And obviously the 2 new dash mechanics for the faster engage is very nice for the 1v1s. But other than that, I mean, you're losing so much by going to this succession. I mean, the trade-off was always supposed to be that it would give you something more, but the more it's giving you just isn't coming out with this class's succession, and that is a real shame. So if we just jump to obviously the cons, you know, there's so many, but obviously let's just focus on what I would say the main 3 are here. Loss of protection. Obviously that's always going to be a nightmare no matter what. The fact that you've lost your range poke as like you're engaged, and even before when they use their Q buff to do that, you know, the poke, even though I don't know if it is the actual Q for them, but I know a lot of people call it the Q buff. You know, with their down smashing ability, that, you know, that's all gone. So they lose that, which for mass PvP, and I'm sure for grinding as well, it hurts. And general rule of thumb, the actual grinding for this class with the succession is sort of slower. And it's slower at the lower end grind place as well, because they've lost the ability, you know, they've lost so much. And that is a shame. So yeah, this is one where I think Cacao really missed the target, and I'm sure will be kicking themselves, but fingers crossed they're thinking about something they can do to redeem it. So here we are, my final thoughts of Succession, and well, I mean, what can I say? We have seen now the first real, you know, Succession fail in the Berserker, and I think that's a shame, because it's a class which the actual, you know, their pre-awakening moves were so cool and iconic with their, you know, the spin to win and all of that sort of stuff. And it's just a shame that they could have done so much more with that and just haven't. It is worth saying that the word on the street is that this will get reworked, and they are going to try and do some major balancing towards it, because they know they've not got this right. I mean, on their side, they must be able to see the amount of people who have got certain talents taken, and I'm sure they'll be able to see considerably more have gone with the Awakening than Succession. And when they start seeing that as a percentage of player base versus the other Successions, you know, I'm sure a red flag will jump up, but fingers crossed they'll do it quicker than obviously what they've done in the past with certain issues. Now, okay, it's fair to say that the Sorc Succession is very strong, exceptionally strong, and it is probably, at this point, the most broken Succession that there is. So just keep that in mind. You know, that's not me sort of pointing the finger and calling out Sorcs, because like I said, if I was playing it, I'd definitely be playing that now, just for the fun. While it was fun anyway. But so a lot of people have said it's more like a moral choice, but the issue there is the whole point about the successions was to make you make a choice. There was supposed to be a loss in certain areas, so you see other classes where they have significantly improved grinding speeds, but it dramatically hurts their PvP ability, or at least, you know, isn't so good, or takes a completely different playstyle. But the Sorc one, in fact, it's the only thing I'd say is it's made you not be so melee, but obviously the Sorc is always seen as a squishy class as such. You know, yes, the ones that build evasion are slightly worse, but you know, they rely on their iframes. So taking them out of that melee range and allowing them to be mid-range, it's just a benefit. It's an all-round benefit, and this is one of the successions which, yeah, it's just very good. But is it very good because of it being too strong, too outbalanced, too OP? We'll see. You know, if I'm being honest, I could imagine this will get some numbers tuning down soon, but you know, for those who enjoy it, you know, I hope you get to enjoy it for as long as you can, because at this moment in time, I'm not doing too much active PvP, because IRL, so, you know, fair play. But anyway, for those who have stuck around to here, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, all the other shameless things that I say every time at the end of the video. And it is always very fun to do these. Obviously, the next one that we're going to look at is the Dark Knight, because that is already out, and I need to have a go on that, and I think that's going to be an interesting one as well. And we should probably do a video talking about the year and what's apparently coming out from Cacao and what we should expect. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do appreciate it, guys. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.